Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another video lesson. This lesson is in preparation for the class that we'll be having on Wednesday, April 8th. Now, before we actually get to the lesson, I do have a quick announcement. Whenever you do come to our Zoom meeting that we'll be having on Wednesday, in honor of Spirit Week, I want you guys to share or wear your craziest socks. So go crazy. Now you might say, well, Mr. Lugo, you can't really see my socks because of the video. That's fine. You can just take them off, show them off. Yeah, it's going to be crazy sock day. And so I hope that you come wearing your crazy socks or mismatch your socks. Either way, crazy sock day. So let's jump right into it. Today we'll be covering something called interquartile range. Interquartile range. I know that sounds long and complicated, and yes, while it is something wholly new, it isn't something that we've covered in this class yet. There are some topics embedded in there that we have already covered, specifically the concept of a range and the concept of medians. So we will be reviewing those two topics as we go into interquartile range. So the first thing I want to do is share my screen. Give me a second. Okay, and so like usual, the first thing I want you to do is go to Schoology, go into the Zoom folder, and you're going to find the notes. I encourage you to take those notes, copy those notes so that you're able to follow along. And so with that in mind, let's first talk about the concept of range. Okay, interquartile range. If you see the word range is embedded in there. Remember that range is simply the maximum or the highest amount minus the minimum or the least amount. So in this example that I think I just made up, we are given a list of numbers which have already been organized from least to greatest. And so if I wanted to get the range of these numbers, I would simply take the maximum minus the minimum. And so I'm not saying that we're going to be doing that today, but we're going to use a similar concept today as we do interquartile range. So just kind of keep that in mind. Now, not only are we going to be working with range, but we're also going to be using the concept of a median, And in fact, anytime we're working with interquartile range, the first thing we want to do is find the median. All right, now if you remember, the median is simply the value or values that are going to be in the middle. One of the ways that we learn how to do this is to simply pair the numbers. For example, I can pair 6 and 22, so those are gone. 7 and 22, 10 and 21, 15 and 20, 17 and 19. And this 17 with this 19. And again, ladies and gentlemen, this only works if you have already organized these from least to greatest. So right here we find that we have two numbers right in the middle. We have 18 and 18. And so what I need to do is add up those numbers together and then divide by 2, which 18 plus 18 is 36 divided by 2 gives me 18. So therefore, the median, ladies and gentlemen, would be 18. As we see right here, that is my median. So when dealing with interquartile range, as soon as we find the median, we're going to label that Q2. Just keep that in mind. The median is Q2. It's going to make more sense as we get to the end of it. But for now, just know median. The first thing I do is find the median, and that is Q2. I'm going to label that Q2. So if somebody asks you, hey, what is Q2 or quartile 2? Well, quartile 2 is 18. We know that Q2 is always the median. And I'm going to keep saying that so that it's cemented into your minds. Median is Q2. What is the median? The median is 18. Quartile 2 is 18. All right. So now that we've gotten that, whenever we're working with interquartile range, what we're essentially going to be doing is we're going to get the median of each of the halves. So we're going to have an upper median, which is going to be the median of the upper regions, which is these regions over here, and we're going to get a median of the lower regions, which is this part over here. All right. So let's work with the bottom first. Okay, so we're going to find the median of these numbers over here. Okay, and so just as before, finding the median is the one or the ones in the middle. In this case, since I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, there's only going to be one median. And so the one right in the middle is 15. That is my lower median. I'm going to call that Q1 or quartile 1. So again, we already found quartile 2. That was the median of the whole thing. That is 18. And then I looked at the lower half and I found that median, and that median was 15. And so I'm going to label that Q1. And so now I'm going to do the same thing for the upper half. I'm going to find the median of the upper half. There I see that the number right in the middle of that is 20, so that is going to be quartile 3. So as you can see, I have found quartile 2, which was 18, the median of the whole thing. Quartile 1, which was our lower median, which was 15, and quartile 3. Yes, I'll get to that in a second. Now, another thing I want you to notice here is even when we talk about the word interquartile. In fact, let me write that down really quick. Interquartile. So with the word interquartile, notice how we have the word quart embedded in there. Or really just QUA, quad, like quad, like a quad bike or your quadriceps. We know that quart or quart implies a fourth. And so each section, so we have Q1, Q2, and Q3, represents a fourth or 25% of all the values. Do we see that? So yes, again, interquartile. So we separated it really into fourths. Q1, Q2, Q3 separates all the values into 4 different sections, and each of those holds 25% of all the points. And so as we talk about interquartile range, and I know this is a lot, but we'll do more examples in a little bit. We're looking at this area right here. The area between Q1 and Q3. All right. And when you think about it, that really holds 50% of all the points, because we have 25 and 25. And what's 25 plus 25? It's 50. So half the points, we're looking at the points right in the middle. Okay. Now, if you find that a little confusing, you're not alone. I know this is new. So let's do another example. Let's actually clear the page. Oh, dang it, I did not want to do that. Let's clear this. Okay, so now let's work on this second example. So here we're given a dot plot. And if you were wondering how we spell some of these things, quartile is spelled like this. We already have that, quartile. And if you already took the notes, if you haven't, I encourage you to pause this video and write this down. Interquartile range is the difference. And remember, anytime we're finding the difference, we're working with subtraction. So the difference between the first quartile and the third quartile. Okay? So again, we're going to be using this dot plot. And so the first thing I did is that I took each of the values in the dot plot and I organized them from least to greatest. And that is what I did precisely down here. All right, so we see 60, 60, 70. I see 2 70s, and so that's how those 70s ended up down here. And then I see 4 80s, and so I have the 4 80s down here, 2 90s, and 100. So in total, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 points. 10 total points. Okay, so now that I've organized them from least to greatest, remember the first thing I do is I find Q2, which is the median. And so since we have 10 numbers, the median is going to be right here. 80 plus 80 is 160. 160 divided by 2 is 80. So my Q2 or my median is 80. Now let's find our lower median, which is going to be Q1. And so I'm going to be working with these numbers over here. And so the number right in the middle is 70. And so that's going to be my Q1. And now let me find my upper median, which is going to be 90. That is the number right in the middle. And so that is my Q3. So again, I'm looking for the interquartile range, or we've abbreviated that IQR. Remember, that's the difference between Q3 and Q1. So literally all I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract. I'm going to be subtracting whatever my Q3 is minus my Q1. My Q3 is 90. My Q1 is 70. So 90 minus 70 gives me 20. And that is my interquartile range. Interquartile range. I was about to say any questions, but again, we'll see. We'll ask the questions whenever we see the actual lesson. Let me leave this for a second. And actually, with that in mind, let's just move on to our next page of notes. Okay, so this is just to practice, just to show you how simple this really is. It seems complicated, but it really isn't. Notice how fast we're gonna move over. Now, in this next example, I did write even over here, just so you know that I'm working with an even number of values. And in the next example, we're gonna work with an odd value of numbers. So we have an even number. That means that we're gonna have two medians. Okay, here we have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 values once again. And so my median is going to be, let's see, we have 18, 41, 19, 24, 20, 22, 21, and 22. So we have these two values, 21 and 22. All right, so I'm going to get the average of those 2 points. So I'm going to add them up. So 21 plus 22. That's going to give me 43. So I'm going to divide that by 2. So 43 divided by 2, it's going to give me, so 2 times 1 is 2. And so that's going to be 21.5. So that means that my median right here is going to be 21.5. Now remember, that is my Q2. Let me clear this up. So that is Q2. My Q2 or my median is 21.5. And I'm just going to write Q2. All right, so I can already write that down here, 21.5. Good. So now let me find my lower quartile. So I'm going to be working with these numbers over here. Obviously, I'm not including the median. Remember that we don't include the median when we're looking at the lower quartile. And so that's going to be 20. I can see it. It's very clear right there. It's the number around the middle. So that's my Q1. So that's going to be 20. And when I look at the upper median, I can see that 22 is my upper median. So my interquartile range is Q3 minus Q1. So it's literally going to be 22 minus 20, which is going to give me 2. So my interquartile range is simply 2. That's it. That's all we're doing. Pretty simple. Okay, let's look at one more example. And now let's work with an odd number of values. So again, we're working with an odd number of values. Here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 values. And so I can see that because we have 7 values, the median is going to be one specific number, and that number is 25. So 25 is my Q2. That is my median. I might as well put it here already. Now, when I'm working with an odd number, when I look at my lower median, or when I'm looking for Q1, I'm going to be looking at these numbers over here. Now, notice how I am not including the median. I am not including the median. Again, I repeat, I am not including the median. Okay, so that 25 is not going to be on there. So it is very clear that 15 is my Q1. And when I look at the upper median, or Q3, I can see that that is going to be 40. So now my interquartile range is simply going to be 40, which is Q3, minus Q1, which is 15. And when we work that out, we get that our IQR is 25. Our interquartile range is 25. That's pretty much it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that you come with questions when we do have our virtual meeting, which will be through Zoom on Wednesday. I will be re-emailing your parents, but it should be the same link and the same password that I gave you for our previous meeting. Don't forget that for Spirit Week, we will be wearing our crazy socks. And so, yes, I can't wait to see your crazy socks and to see you at our meeting. Let me just, I just realized. Let me get out of this. There we go, that's better. And so, yes, I will see you on Wednesday. Come with questions and come with the crazy socks.